Hey, how's it going? Putting together just a quick little install video for the OutEquipPro air conditioning unit, 10,000 BTU air conditioning unit with the included heater unit as well. And so just getting the roof prepped on top of my 1997 Falcon camper van, and have removed at this point the old unit, and I'm ready to start looking over the parts for the new one. And I want to take everybody here along for the ride, just so if you are installing one of these, you can get an idea of how I chose to do it. So there's our opening where that big beast just came out of. It's upside down right now, but that was in there. And there's your outline, but the standard 14-inch by 14-inch hole is what the new air conditioner is going to fit inside of. Just getting things cleaned up here a little bit, wiped off, scraped off a lot of old caulk in there. So obviously if you're doing a replacement, make sure you're getting that surface really darn clean before you try to get your new one attached, because this is your chance to get it all cleaned up. All right, so the OutEquipPro unit is incredibly low profile. I believe this measures about 5 inches top to bottom. This is gonna sit inside of the 14-inch by 14-inch opening, which is a standard opening in all RV and trailer and motorhome, not only vent fans, full-size vent fans, but air conditioning units as well. So one of the things that drew me to this is that it fits with what's already there. Your box is going to come with some of your standard gaskets. This is going to actually help carry the load of the back of the unit, because usually these have an area that drops in. This is what will actually be inside underneath. And then there's a little bit of an overhang on the roof, so to just help carry the weight. You got those. This is going to be the big square gasket that everything actually sits on in terms of the unit. And so this will help make the connection between the unit and the roof of the camper van itself. Accessories. This is going to be your inside bracket to help kind of push everything, pull everything, I guess I should say, together. The continued connection on the inside. One of the things that's great about this is that it's hooking up to the battery and not into the breaker box. And so you're gonna be able to run this a lot more efficiently off of a 12-volt system than you would running it through the AC side of things. And then all of your trim pieces and finished panels. This is what's gonna make the actual connection underneath, and the vent, the little vents that direct your airflow. So there's your basic package. And I'll kind of talk through step by step what we're going to do with all this. Okay, so if you've never installed a rooftop AC unit before, just a couple things to be aware of. I've got it flipped upside down right now, but you're typically going to have to navigate. Like I said, most campers, motorhomes have a 14-inch by 14-inch square opening. That's kind of the standard opening for air conditioning units and for full-sized vent fans. We have a full-size max air fan on top of our camper van, and this is going to go into the opening where the old unit was. Old unit is 30 plus years old, incredibly inefficient. And so one of the first steps, once you've got your roof kind of prepped and ready to go, is that you've usually got some type of gasket that you've got to put down on top of the roof. This is going to compress when things are tightened and help seal this to the top of the roof by having this sit in between them. And if what I'm saying, is making no sense, you'll see here in a second, but I'm going to actually get up on the roof of the van. I've got it all cleaned off and get this gasket attached. This will be step number one. All right, so up on the roof, again, all cleaned off, and this gasket, it's going to be really hard to do one-handed, so I might have to record it and come back. But this is going to go around the opening. This is not a difficult thing at all. You're basically just centering the gasket around the hole. Looks like there's about an inch around on each side, and it's got It's got a sticky built right into the bottom, some 3M tape. So let me get this attached and then I'll bring you back here and you can kind of see what it looks like once it's on. Yeah, just like that. Again, it looks like it's about an inch around all the way. Don't overthink this. It doesn't have to be perfect. You're basically creating just the seal, and then the unit is going to sit on top of this. And then once you tighten things on the inside, that'll actually compress things. Now, this is interesting. This is actually the first time I think I've ever seen this, so kudos to OutEquipPro. They have these little spacers in here that won't allow you to tighten past. These are actually solid little pieces of like hard rubber. So you want this to compress, but you don't want to over compress it, and you want it to be consistently compressed all the way around. Well, they have about every 6 inches one of these hard rubber plugs, so that when I tighten this thing up, it will only tighten down as far as that little rubber plug goes. I'll feel that resistance from the inside once I'm tightening. That is a really, really good design. The next thing I have to figure out, and I actually had to shoot a message to their customer service for this, but trying to figure out, they have a power cable installed, half installed, with an Anderson connector. I'll show you what that looks like in just a second. But you either, typically when you do this, you either have to make an electrical connection from the inside, or you have to do it somewhere from the outside. And the way they have it set up, you have to make an external hole to run that connector down in, unless you can route it from the inside. That was the question I had for them. And so I'll explain that once I get there. But what I'm going to end up doing is actually creating a small notch here so that that power cable can run inside, and then I can route it to my battery that way, instead of having it kind of tail off the unit and have to drill another hole in the roof. They did clarify that that is appropriate to do. And so I think that's what I'm going to do. I'll have a cleaner install, plus it's one less hole that I have to put in the roof. Okay, so this is that connector that I was talking about. And again, it's got, or this is the wire, I guess I should say, and then it's got this Anderson connector. This will hook into that, and this is the rest of the cable to run inside. But again, because this is coming out of the back of the unit, if you don't find a way to run it inside, then you have to drill a hole into the roof and run it to the outside. So I'm going to try to be intentional with keeping this as clean as possible. And I love the idea of not having to drill another hole in the roof. And this is going to be lifted off the roof. There's going to be a slight gap anyways. That's what that little foam gasket is that I just installed. So in theory, I ought to be able to run this through the notch on a foam gasket, and I can make that watertight a little bit more once that time comes also. But I think that's the route that I'm going to go with running my actual power cable. Well, my helper for the day isn't here, so I got it up by myself. 2 quick thoughts. Number one, I knew this was a low profile AC unit, but I cannot believe how low profile it is. I love that. And super excited about the fact that this is a 12 volt and that it can run off of a battery, as opposed to having to navigate all of the stuff of wiring it into your panel. So more efficient for sure. And it's also, it's not light, but it is, I mean, at least half the weight of an actual unit. a 110 AC unit, just really not awful. You saw I actually got it up butt scoop by myself. And there is kind of a top-down view, and I notched that out so I could run that back under. I do have some spacers to put under here to help lift that up. These little leveling blocks are included, 3M tape on the bottom. So gonna stick these underside on the back of the air conditioning unit itself. This just helps keep it level, helps with proper drainage, and again, super easy to attach with your 3M tape. You can see one of them there, and then the other one I'm just gonna get put right up in underneath this side, and then I'll actually trim this off. Again, leaving a little bit of a gap for my wire chase to go through. From the inside, you're finding these little threaded rod spots where you're going to actually attach the brackets to help hold it in place. Did notice there's only 2 brackets, but 3 sets of holes. So I actually need to do a little bit of double checking on that to see where exactly all of these are supposed to go. So first little error, not a big deal, but I actually came back up on top and pulled everything off. This is worth noting that the 14-inch by 14-inch standard opening works. This gasket is actually larger than that. And when I put it down, I left about 1 inch of a gap all the way around, thinking that would work because I didn't want to cut this if I didn't have to. But not cutting it means that with that inch all the way around, the gasket actually moves into areas on the underside of the head unit that need to be sealed on the outside of the gasket. So there's some vents and whatnot that were actually inside the gasket instead of out. So I peeled this off. It's warm enough that it came off fairly easy. And I'm just gonna end up doing what their instructions say, which is trimming it to fit a little bit tighter. I don't know, I kind of wish they would have just made it, if 14 by 14 is about your biggest size, and they say there's larger sizes, but it seems like you wouldn't make this any bigger than what you would need in order to fit the vent system underneath. So I don't know, maybe consider making this a little bit smaller. I don't know. What do I know? But it does mean I have to reattach it now that I've taken it off, and so I'm gonna do that. So my challenge right now is just trying to straighten this out, and it's got this built-in curve, which again I think is a good idea if this was all made to fit a 14-inch by 14-inch opening. Now I think they probably have a reason why, OutEquipPro probably has a reason why they didn't do that. It's definitely possible to have other sizes, but it seems like your most common usage would be this, or maybe send, and maybe this increases the price too much, but maybe send a gland that could fit both a standard 14 by 14. I think this is probably 85% of your applications are going to be this. So yeah, for what it's worth, I'm trying to figure out where to trim this. I'd like it to be as straight as possible, but the biggest thing is you need it as tight to the edge as possible, again, so that this sits on the inside of anything on the underside of the unit that should be sealed away from the inside. So this is what I got to figure out next. All right, so here's my final attempt. Cut it here, cut it here. I will seal inside of those crevices with sealant, plus, before this is official, obviously seal all the way around on this edge. So we'd have to have water that would get, you know, up to some pretty high levels in order to actually get inside. So I'll get all those things sealed, which I think will help also. But I don't like having to have it cut in two spots. If this is going to be my waterproof membrane, it'd be really nice to either have it come all in a roll without these you just couldn't straighten out. So these have to be your curves or your corners. And from there, it's just, it's a bit of a guessing game of where it goes. So anyways, that's the new placement of the gasket. And I'm going to go ahead and get this sealed up. And I think I'll probably also run some sealant on the inside, right? Why not? If it gets through here, maybe have it try to stop it from getting inside there. So that's what we're looking at. All right, so I'm back down inside. Again, the gasket I've got trimmed down now and sealed on the inside and the outside. Doing anything I can, obviously, just to help prevent water damage. But I went to Menards and just picked up some angle iron, trying to really shore up. This is all going to be covered once the ceiling is finished. But this is not an OutEquipPro thing. This is my own vehicle problem. But the old air conditioner just completely had drooped this ceiling. It was way too heavy for it. And so I was having a hard time getting it to really get that compression seal to work. So got some angle iron and kind of bridging across some of the beams to hold this up. I think I'm going to try to get a few more pieces in each side here before I kind of consider it, you know, shored up fairly well. But I'm going to set the new unit back down on top and retry the whole, getting it all tightened up. So there's where we are right now. Ugh. So that dropped in pretty easy. I got to go back on the inside now and try to just make sure it's centered inside of the opening, which it probably isn't, but that's an easy thing to adjust. And then I could probably start to tighten some of those brackets down. Okay, back up in here, and yeah, see, I want to route. This is that little notch that I cut out, so move those out of the way. There's that little notch that I cut out, and I want to get my cord down inside of that. So I'm doing my best here solo. Looks about even. Yeah, you can see the edges. I tried to do a good job of centering those, and then the instructions actually say this needs to be about a little over 2.5 inches. You can actually see when you look up, kind of get an idea of where it needs to be centered in order to not have any of those openings accessible by by the vents that are actually present on the underside. So that looks pretty good. I still have a ceiling that's drooping. I don't have that figured out quite yet. We're working on it, but I'm gonna try to navigate a little bit of holding in place with the brackets that the air conditioner comes with, and see if I can't get some stuff to start to tighten up a little bit. So getting those bolts put in with this cross bracket and start to screw those up, which should be the thing that really helps seal this into place. One thing worth noting, you see there's where you got daylight, so the more you tighten these, what you want is for that gasket to seal up tight and for that daylight to slowly start to go away, which is what we're getting, and that's good. That's huge. Now, from this standpoint, you've got some options. I am going to eventually route this through here and over and down, because in my van, all of my electronics run under here. For the sake of the install video, we're not going to do that. Instead, what I'm going to do is hook up the Anderson connector and go ahead and just get it wired into a deep cycle 12 volt battery so that you can get an idea at least of what it looks like, sounds like. And then the other thing I still have to do is finish my ceiling. And so I'm going to hook up the controls. It will not be a permanent hookup because I've still got to do my finished ceiling. But again, we're trying to get you just an idea of what the install itself will look like. So gonna hook up those controls, gonna hook up this connector to this battery and finish up this install video. All right, that's about as straightforward as it gets. You can't do it wrong because it only goes one way, positive to positive, negative to negative. So that connector can't be screwed up. This is huge. I am pumped because I actually hadn't unwrapped the extra connection yet. And one thing I was thinking about was, well, I got to make sure that I have a fuse. So worst case scenario, you always want to have a fuse on your positive line. And when I unhooked it, lo and behold, look what OutEquipPro equips you with, no pun intended. They've got a 120 amp fuse. So if you were to ever have any type of overcurrent issue, that fuse is going to blow, but it's going to protect your unit, your battery, a fire, any of those things. That's huge. I will say I have not found a lot of companies that will include inline fuses, and OutEquipPro does. So kudos to them. And these connectors here, also kind of hard to screw up because they all only fit in one spot. So this is going to be a temporary hookup, but I'm going to hook these into here. And then for now, this is just a pressure fit. This part here is going to hook onto that there. It'll actually be turned around this way. It'll go up like that. But I'll get these connections made, get this hooked up above, and then I'll go ahead and make the positive to negative connections on the battery. And you will be here for the first fire up, no pun intended, of the new unit. Okay, got those all plugged in. Another nice little inline fuse option there, which is good. Looks like there's one that doesn't get anything, and I'm not entirely sure what that is or why. I'll have to look back at the install instructions. And then this little piece hanging here, this is going to be your your temperature gauge, your in-room thermometer, so that it can, you know, let you know what your temperature is, and then you can set it accordingly. So this is going to go up in here, and then we'll hook the battery up. This also, not to be thought of as a difficult thing at all. You're going to get a little bit of a spark. Typically, you hook your negative up first. So we'll go ahead. I'm going to do this one-handed, but we'll get the negative on first. And then you'll probably see just a little spark when you connect that 12-volt side. Which we did, and we hear the beep, which means we've got power. So I'm going to screw down the little wing nut there, and then, like I said, we'll get this fired up and see how she sounds, feels, etc. All right, so remote in hand, takes a couple AAA batteries, and here we go with our first official on, which we are on. Little adjustment valves there. Temperature, let's go down maybe to, I don't know, 75. I'm going to be quiet once it gets rolling here, but you'll notice versus the sound of a typical rooftop air unit, dude, that's pretty quiet. It's real nice. And I'm just going to shut it off here. Yeah, shuts off within a few seconds. Love that. I did get the unit, has a heater built in also. So there is a heat option you can get for this. It's $50 more, which I think is probably a worthy investment. Not going to do a really great job of really, you know, cooking you out of your space. But if you needed a little bit of supplemental heat, why not spend an extra $50 to do that? I am just really happy. Real excited. This is exactly what I wanted it to be. Eventually, when I get everything hooked up, we'll figure out how long a battery can last, what kind of draw that's going to take. But all in all, just real impressed. Well, that's it. Again, just wanted to give a real practical install video, talk you through my process, what worked for me, what didn't. I think, again, the one thing I would just suggest is some type of approach that's slightly different to that gasket. Most people are going to be installing this in a 14-inch by 14-inch opening unless they're cutting a hole themselves. And I would even suggest in a typical van where you're maybe putting in the opening, I would always cut a 14 by 14. If something were to ever fail on any unit that you use and you had to pull it out and put it in with something else, that 14-inch by 14-inch square opening is the industry standard for anything that goes in the rooftop of a mobile unit. That'd be maybe the one adjustment I would encourage OutEquipPro to think about. Make it a 14 by 14 square. And then if someone needs a bigger size, since you have to cut it one way or the other, I'd rather it be a 14-inch by 14-inch gasket and then supply an extra piece that if someone needed to cut the gasket to expand it, cool. What I don't like having to do is cut it to get it to fit what is a standard 14-inch size. That would probably be my one suggestion. Now, I don't know what that looks like on a manufacturing side, but I think 90% of your installs are going to be 14-inch square openings. Be the one adjustment I'd make. Other than that, man, this thing is sweet. I'll be definitely looking at their stuff for future applications for any of my my mobile campers and buses and all the things that I do. Huge thanks to OutEquipPro for sending this over to me and letting me do an install video. Really appreciate the collaboration. Yeah, get out there, man. Do some work. This is a really fun hobby to just be a part of, you know, the entire mobile dwelling community.